Welcome in to Take Command from Northwest Stadium alongside Logan Paulsen. I'm Grant Paulsen. The Commanders are 1-0, a dominant defensive performance, allowing just 6 points. They win by 15, 21-6 here. What a day for Washington to start the season.
Yeah, what a day kind of feels like an understatement. It's the first game, division opponent, and the defense came out and did everything we thought they might be able to do in training camp. We talked about, if they can do this, if they can play the man coverage, if they can rush the passer the way they've been doing in practice, and they came out and did it. Now, I don't know how good the Giants' offensive line is, and I'm not going to detract from the defense, but they came out and hit this ball out of the park, which is absolutely outstanding.
Yeah, the storyline, I think, most of the offseason for people around this team is we have a pretty good feel that ultimately when the offense gets where it's going, it's going to be really, really good.
Yeah.
This is about the defense playing good ball and playing well enough to maybe steal them a win or two. And today the story was, I thought, as expected, they were never all together offensively. That's where you don't have quite the same health. It wasn't perfect. They had a couple of really good drives. They only scored 21 points, but the game was never in question. The defense was that good. They were pretty suffocating.
Defense was suffocating, and to your point about the offense, I think this was also really interesting. It was, you got to see the peaks, the peaks of what they can be, right? There was that drive, I think it was the second touchdown drive that they had where it was, or the first touchdown drive, second touchdown drive, doesn't matter, where it was like, hey, we got a play action shot, we got a bootleg, we got a RPO, we got a interesting kind of quarterback design run. And it was just like the Giants had no recourse, man. And that to me is when Cliff's at his best, when Jaden's at his best, like this offense is unstoppable. Now, they've got a lot of work to do to kind of build up that consistency. You mentioned the penalties. There were some negative plays in there. But overall, man, the offense, like those glimmers were so bright. Now, like you said, the start of the show today is defense, and rightfully so. Like that defensive front, standing on the sideline, watching that tidal wave of burgundy and gold envelop Russell Wilson multiple times today, the way they're able to fit runs, just the difference in the interior play to free up Bobby Wagner to run and hit. It all starts with the front, I'm going to say. But again, the secondary played well, but the front, man, played so well today.
That's what I'm going to start with, actually. I was blown away by Javon Kinlaw. There was a lot of noise.
And you should be. And you should be.
There was a lot of noise when he got signed. I remember talking to people with the Jets and the 49ers. And, oh, my God, they gave him all this money. I don't understand it. I don't see it. Well, I saw it today. I know why you pay this guy. He is a refrigerator on feet. and he was throwing guards around.
Yeah.
He made a huge impact. First play of the game, -1 TFL. Early in the second half, first run of the second half, I think, for the Giants. Another loss where he just completely blew up the play. But he also was pushing the pocket. There was a series where on 2 separate plays in a row, he completely got home. One, he actually hit Russell Wilson. The other, he just forced an incomplete. But he was so noticeable. It was a loud performance.
Yeah, and I think this also speaks to Adam Peters. You know, you had him on your other show a couple days ago, and I think he said some stuff that I didn't even think about when it came to Javon Kinlaw. The fact that he'd had a COVID year, coming off injury, no offseason, no developmental time period at any point here. And then all of a sudden you see him just come out, and the ascending player from New York last year is the bear of a man we saw in today's game. And I think that's something that can't be overstated, is just how well he played and how physical he was. Like there's a play today, and it's not going to show up in the stat sheet. The Giants are trying to run duo. Javon Kinlaw is hands on the guard, sitting it down. The tackle's trying to double team him out. They cannot move him off the spot. And I remember watching that same duo run last year, that 3 technique, whoever it was, just get bowled into the linebacker's lap for a 5-yard gain, and they couldn't stop it. It was against this same New York Giants team. So having Duran play the way he did, having Kinlaw play the way he did, like you see the importance of the free agent acquisition and kind of what it's done for Duran in terms of freeing him up to be at his more natural position.
So that's probably the right way to put it, like the nice way to put it, which is Javon Kinlaw is going to make him better.
Yeah.
My angle is Duran paying contract years back.
Yeah, right. No, that's a great point.
When he had a contract year, he was one of the best D tackles in the league. He went out and got 11+ sacks. 2 years since, 4 sacks each year, and that's not the only metric, right? He's done some really good things. But today, he was elite again.
Elite.
Like, and I said this coming into the game to somebody. It was a handsome gentleman. His name was Logan, I think. But not you. It was another buddy of mine. But I said, like, no one talks about him anymore.
Yeah.
He is one of the most talented players on the team. He's far and away the highest paid player on the team. His cap number is $26 million. I don't know there's another player in the league who's the highest cap number guy on his roster, who's the highest paid player on his roster, who had less headlines and ink and conversation. It's like we just forget that Daron Payne, a top 15 pick at one point in time, who's been a complete badass in this league, is still here. And today, somehow he was got 1 sack. His agent's going to be calling the league because it should be a sack and a half. But I'm going to say sack and a half, 2 batted balls, like super impactful stuff.
I think that's the thing about it is like you said, he's done good stuff where he's holding off double teams. He's forcing the running back to cut back. But today you felt him and it showed up in his production. I think that's the biggest difference. And again, like they've been, Joe Wood Jr. has been touting him since early in the offseason. And you see why he's been getting that praise today, right? I mean, both those guys in the interior, even Johnny Newton to a certain extent was very productive today in terms of tackle for loss at one point in the game. So whatever they're doing, the rotation, keeping guys fresh, multiple different deployments, it showed up. And I think that, the secondary played really well too, but that interior group really felt like the star of the show today.
We have not mentioned Dietrich Wise.
Dude,
he was awesome. I thought so. A couple of times early, he was left completely unblocked.
Yeah.
Bad idea. Like, seriously, that's a big boy.
Yeah.
He made a couple plays. I talked to him after the game, his professionalism. He comes from New England, played a part of a lot of winning teams. And so I was talking to him and he's like, hey, we got one coming up short week. Like we just showed what we could do. This is now the floor.
Yes.
We need to be better next time. That was kind of his message. And it's standing in a small area where, Dorrance Armstrong and Johnny Newton, all these guys are right there listening. And I love that. But I thought over and over again in this game, you noticed him in the backfield, either forcing an incompletion. There was a big 3rd down where Wilson had to drop down to like a Patrick Mahomes side because, again, Wise came free. He said there were a few looks where he expected that, and then there were a couple more where he wasn't. But if you want to talk about debuts, and we'll get to the offensive side of the ball with Deebo Samuel, who was huge, Krosky Merritt, but Kinlaw up front, Dietrich Wise up front. Will Harris forced the fumble and had some nice plays in this game. Trey Amos didn't get tested a lot, but he had one island play with Malik Neighbors where he had a PBU. He looked the part. If you're Adam Peters, you're moving and shaking today. You're feeling good about some of your moves.
You're feeling really good. And I think to the Dietrich Wise point, the one thing amongst a million things that stuck out with me, again, the physicality, but the experience. You mentioned him in the locker room, kind of having the experience and the wherewithal to be like, hey, we've got another game come up on a short week. Let's not celebrate this too hard here. But I think you see him on some of those naked keepers, the bootlegs and stuff, him kind of being like, okay, I know I'm unblocked, I know I can get in the right position, I know I can make this play on the quarterback. And that comes from hours and hours banked, hours and hours in the film room. And so not only do you feel his physicality, do you feel his athleticism, but you also feel the knowledge that he's accrued over the course of his career.
If it feels like I'm getting closer and closer to you,
it's
because I am. Yeah. But also, we don't have control over this camera, and it moves automatically, like based on what we're doing.
Yeah.
So I've noticed that it just keeps going lower and lower onto your head. So I just have to keep coming up here, and it see how it follows me a little bit. So we'll just do it. Is this good like this? Right here,
right there, perfect.
Okay,
I love it.
Fine. Let's talk about the offense next. On take command, Logan Paulsen, Grant Paulsen. Take command, Logan Paulsen, Grant Paulsen. 14-6 was the score. And then there was a little back and forth. Defense has to make a stop. Washington gets the ball back. They go down and put together a touchdown drive to put this game on ice. And it all started with a Jaden Daniels 12-yard run. I thought we got what we've talked about, which is more design carries for Jaden Daniels. The first 2 carries of this game, which was the second and third snap of the game to pick up a first down, were both scrambles. For a guy who led the NFL with 600 scramble yards last year, he got 11 on those 2 carries. But as we went, it's 8 yards here. It was 12 yards here. They called 2 quarterback draws out of spread. I thought that was pretty telling and maybe a sign of things to come.
And I think he called those himself. He definitely checked one of those on his own and kind of identified a look. The one down at the far end there, I think it ended up being like a 12-yard scamper down away from the tunnel.
How could you tell he did?
Because he got up there and he said their code word, did the signal. They all mirrored it and then ran the play. So
Paulsen,
that's what he said. Yeah. Grant Paulsen, really fast guy. Let's do that. Let's put that out there. But but I will say so first off, I was a little surprised with how the style of run that Cliff deployed him on, like kind of getting him in there, kind of mixing it up. I was like, oh,
early in the game, especially. He took a couple shots.
Yeah, and I was like, oh no, but the competitor, the toughness, and then as a pocket passer, the ability to be like, hey, this play's broken. Let me scramble for a first down. It was so surreal watching him because it's like he didn't miss a beat. I thought maybe he'd struggle a little bit. Maybe the ball would be a little bit off. Didn't get a lot of reps in the preseason, but the decision-making, the ability to elevate the offense, to put the whole team in the right position to be successful was just totally on display. And yeah, man, it's really just such a blessing to get to watch him play every week.
He overall, I thought played at like an MVP level today.
Yeah.
I'm not doing like a MVP vote in week 1 bit, but what I mean by that is you take him off the field offensively. There wasn't a whole lot going at times, but it was 11 for 68 for him on the ground. As a passer, he finishes 19 of 30 for 233 and a touchdown. So all purpose, just over 300 yards with a score. Now, I will say, I know you're not allowed to say anything other than every play is the best play that's ever happened with Jaden.
Right.
I thought he was a tick off on some of his throws, like behind a bunch early in the game. Overall, the performance was unbelievable. The deep throw to the sideline to Chris Moore was like top 5 throw of the year stuff, like 18 weeks from now. I thought some of the inbreakers to Deebo were really impressive. He had some big boy stuff that he did. There was a one really nice throw to Ertz as well. But more than I even remember, there was a few throws that were just a tick off, and it felt like maybe the timing of the offense wasn't exactly where it's going to be in a month, which gives me a lot of encouragement to score 20 in a win.
I was going to say, I had a buddy who texted me, shout out to Doug, who said the same thing. And in the moment, I didn't pick up on it. Like there was one, he had Ertz over the middle where the ball was behind Zach, and everyone's like, oh, that's a bad throw. But I felt from my vantage point, the backside safety's breaking on that football. So he's kind of helping Zach protect himself. So I don't obviously I'm sure there were some other ones.
There was one to Jalen Lane. There was one to Deebo that he should have caught because it was like a little bit behind him. And I'm sure he'd tell you he should catch it.
Right.
But overall, I mean, my thing with quarterbacks is, having been now in this town where it was Griffin, then it was Cousins, and we do this, like every throw doesn't have to be a referendum.
Right.
Every throw doesn't have to be a see, I told you so, he's the man.
Yep.
Like, we're just talking ball. And like there's some that you leave out there, and I'm sure he would say that. Other thing I love about him, and this is why he is so special, he held onto the ball a couple times and took sacks. And would literally like go up to the lineman and tap himself, like, hey man, my bad.
He just is a mature. The maturity for a guy who's second year in the league is really impressive. And you talked about Dietrich Wise and his leadership. I feel like you're getting a lot of that from Jaden Daniels. And I think, again, you talked about like the MVP kind of feel to the game. And so even though a couple throws are off, when it's time to make a throw, when it's time to make a play, he just seems to be able to pull it out and throw it on the table whenever he wants. Oh, yeah, I got that card. We need that throw. I got that right here. And so it's such a unique thing to watch, because I don't think I've ever played with a player like this. Like I played with Deshaun Watson in Houston when he was at the peak of his powers, and it felt kind of like this, but this feels so composed and so collected. And again, like, was it a perfect game? No. And he would probably tell you the same thing. But I think it's the composure, the leadership, the confidence that he brings that is just so unique to him.
You played with good Deshaun Watson.
Really good Deshaun Watson. Really
different than the Browns version.
Yeah, which is, I hate to break that comparison because people forget that he was good at one point.
Well, he was so good.
Yeah, but.
All right, a couple other guys I want to hit on. Take command here live from Northwest Stadium. So Deebo Samuel's first game in burgundy and gold.
Yeah.
What an impact he's going to have. If they can keep him healthy, which was always the question in San Francisco, my goodness, it was 8 total touches, including a 19-yard touchdown run for 86 yards or 96 yards rather, and 1 touchdown. He had 77 on 7 catches, and then his first carry of the game, because his other carry, a jet action, was taken back by penalty. So his first carry as a Commander, 19 yards, running through a couple of tackles. What'd you see on the design? They had like 2 pullers out in front and like a whole cavalcade in front of them.
It's this kind of new wave of I want to say Miami's kind of started, but it's like, I'm going to say high school runs. And so what I mean by that, high school, you run the single wing, you run the triple option. You've got all these different kind of tight formations, and teams around the league now are kind of deploying that to spread principles. And so what you get is you get kind of a counter action going away, backs going across your face. You spin with Deebo. They ran it a couple times, and they ran the counter, him over the top. Obviously, they felt like the defense wasn't playing it correctly. And when you get that action by the linebackers to play the counter, so they're playing to the left, you can pull those 2 linemen to the perimeter, get the receiver out in front blocking. And again, like it was like highway to Broadway there. You know what I'm saying? Like it was really clear. I was standing in the end zone, got to see it. And the crazy thing about it is like they had 2 blockers out in front. I think Laramie Tunsil and maybe Tyler Biadasz because they pulled the center. But there was a free hitter. And it was so weird watching it and having just this thought like, oh, he's going to score. Like I've never felt that way watching a player. Like he's going to break that tackle, and then he's going to break another tackle, and then he's going to break that third tackle and get in. And he just runs so violently. And you said keeping him healthy, it's almost like you got to protect him from himself.
That's why I don't want him returning kicks.
Dude, so I was down there, I was in the end zone watching, and he returned one, and just the one he almost broke where he like was hitting at 1,000 miles an hour, and I was like, ooh. And Fletch was like, why are you making that sound? I'm like, Fletch, he is hitting this return 1,000 miles an hour. And he's like, well, why do you care? And I'm like, it gives me like I get nervous because like you just get, that's how you get lit up. He's fearless.
He's so physical. and the collisions just add up when you're that big, right?
Yeah.
And so to me, I get why they're doing it
Yeah.
because he's going to pop one against the Packers or against somebody. But I would like less is more there.
Yeah.
Luke McCaffrey had a nice return today to the 39.
Yeah.
Maybe give Luke an opportunity. Let's see what happens.
It's the same thing with him and Austin, like Deebo and Austin, quite frankly. Like they're so physical when they have the ball. They've got such great contact balance that they just accrue all these body contacts. And I think you just, as a coach, as a training staff, have to be aware of their utilization because Deebo, it's so fun. And the thing about Deebo, obviously, he scores a touchdown, has a couple catches. Every time he's motioning, the defense is freaking out. They're shifting, they're adjusting, they're passing assignments, they're trying to make sure their run fits are good. And I'm like, he gives you so much flexibility, and he's such a weapon just by being on the field. So, and I'm not being hyperbolic when I say that. Like just him and moving him around the formation becomes problematic for defenses.
Well, I was surprised by anything with his usage. I thought there'd be a couple more carries, which they didn't get to the first one. It wasn't, taken back via penalty until the end of the game there. But I thought it'd be a little more stuff at the line of scrimmage, like crossers, drags, screens. Mm-hmm. He was heavily involved in the old San Francisco Kyle middle of the field dig.
I think we were talking about this, man. Like he can run the heck out of a dig,
it.
and so again, one of the throws I was in the fourth quarter. He's running kind of like that drift-ish,
great ball,
bender seam, perfect ball over the linebacker, right in the hands. And I'm like, if you can use him like that, and then use him on like the touchdown run, and kind of just stack these plays, it's such a chess piece, such a weapon. And you always wonder or worry that when you get a player like that, the offense can't deploy them effectively. And I was concerned about that. I'm like, is Cliff going to be able to maximize his touches, maximize his usage? And I'll be darned if I kind of felt like Cliff did almost a better job than what I'd seen in San Francisco, really finding ways to get him in space, get him creative touches, get him, in good matchups where he can break tackles. So I can't wait to see what that package continues to look like. And again, not to, kind of rain on anybody's parade, but I worry that I want him healthy for 18 games because he's going to be a huge weapon for this offense.
7 for 77 through the air, and then the 19-yard touchdown run. So he crept up on almost 100 all-purpose. Was the touchdown run, to go back to the concept really quickly, was it the same as like the first carry of the game in that early stuff?
Yeah.
Where Jaden kind of spins around
Correct.
and gives?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because they kept bringing him as eye candy. And that time, what happened was he like comes this way. It's almost like an orbit, but I think it's in front of the quarterback. And then he goes back around.
Yes, and so that's like kind of classic.
Were they pulling in front of him when they gave to the back
earlier? So we went in front.
Each time they're setting up that.
They're setting up. They're seeing it. You kind of, it deadens the defense's eye a little bit. They say, "Oh, it's eye candy. We can trigger on that." And the other thing is you got to run the counter well. You got to run the counter to the right there really well, or to the left, whichever way you're going. And they did. And deaden the defensive eye. And then when you got to have a play, like throw that Deebo Samuel card down on the table. You could probably got a little script for him there. You like that run, low red. Let's go get a touchdown, man.
It seemed to me like based on, we're talking about they set that up right away. 2 of those in the first 15 script. Come back to that winning time at the end of the game. Clearly, I don't want to say the offense went through him, but it was a priority to involve him. Whereas you look at Terry, he ended up getting in where he fit in. Couple of catches for Terry McLaurin in this game. Nearly had a third that was kind of controversial, no catch.
Yeah.
May have called, couldn't see enough to overturn it to have it as a reception. But I thought in this game, it just seemed like to me, Deebo was kind of the guy in the passing game pretty clearly. And I don't know if that's an indicator of the last few weeks and just where Jaden's comfort was and what they've been running, or if it was just the matchup today. Well, I guess we'll see as time goes on.
Yeah, I think we'll see. And again, like it was cool. It's cool to be on the sideline because you walk the bench and you'll see Jaden come over and talk to Terry or talk to Deebo or talk to Zach about something. And I felt like there was a couple, the long incompletion that he had to Terry in the first quarter on the go ball. I felt like he was just like, "Hey man, are you thinking this?" And Terry's like, yeah, I'll think like that. And those are the types of communications that need to happen. And I think, with limited reps in the offseason, that can happen in the game. And I've seen those happen, week 1. I've seen them happen week 18. So it's not necessarily indicative of him not being here. But I do think that level of comfort is still growing and will continue to grow. And as it gets better, this offense is going to get more dynamic.
Well, and how different is the combo today? If Terry catches that, what would have been like a 70-yard touchdown or whatever.
Yeah.
And now he's crept up on 100 yards on 3 catches, and you scored 27, and you hit a home run. But really, they didn't need it. I mean, as it was, it's funny that they scored 21 points, and there were times where they weren't moving the ball. I never for 1 second thought they were in any real trouble today.
Well, it's funny because like you think about all of these kind of statistical regression elements, and we've talked about on this show a lot, 4th down conversions, completion percentage. And what did they do? Like the defense just turned up the fader to
Yes.
a million, and you see the ability of them to insulate the offense. Last year was always the offense insulating the defense. This year was kind of the reverse, where they're making plays, they're getting 3 and outs, they're attacking, dictating tempo, they're getting turnovers in the low red in terms of getting them to turn the ball over on 4th down. And if they can sustain that, again, that New York offense is incomplete, right? They're banged up on the offensive line. I don't know if they really have true playmaking ability at the quarterback spot, questioning the playmaking at the receiver. So it'll be interesting to see how that team develops over the course of the year. But for this team to come in and just be like, nope, you're not scoring any points, you're not making any plays, defensively allows the offense to kind of go through these spells where they're not hot. And it was interesting. The other thing too that came to mind with the offense specifically is you feel their ability to go on tempo and how it just devastates defense, but it also creates quick 3 and outs if you don't do it correctly. And so the defense's ability to kind of say, hey, that's a quick 3 and out, that's a quick break, and then to be conditioned enough to get it back up there and make a play, I thought was also really impressive. So just a really great game of complementary football all the way around. And we haven't even talked about them running the football yet for over 230 yards.
Yeah, we're going to get to that right now. Logan Paulsen, Grant Paulsen on Take Command. So we did discuss the fact that Jaden Daniels ended up running for 68 yards, a big part of that. But they get a 42-yard carry from Ja'Cory Crosky-Merritt. Would have been their second longest carry all of last season.
Oh, wow.
Austin Eckler did have a 50-yarder, but B-Rob, no longer here, didn't have a 42-yard carry. And part of the reason to go to Crosky-Merritt, explosiveness, extra base hits, the ability to rip one off like that when you're backed up in the shadow of your own goal line. What'd you see on that play?
Yeah, and again, to kind of elaborate on that real quick, like the ability to overcome, again, statistical regression is to get more explosive. So you're bringing Deebo Samuel, more explosive player.
Yeah.
You said you kind of make the decision to go with Bill Crosky-Merritt, more explosive player. And this is kind of the result of that is you get, remember, explosive plays lead to touchdowns. We saw that today for sure. So what you saw in that play is they're running kind of a version of duo, but they're running from a cross sift. So back's going to work. So tight end's going to come across the formation to the right. Back's going to work to the right side. That's usually a good indicator of duo, back and tight end on the same side. Abdul Carter, I think, is just running straight for Jaden Daniels. And John Bates it's such an aware play. Instead of kind of trying to kick that guy out, run up the field, he knows he's too high. I can add to the running surface, wraps around, kind of makes that block to spring him. So you've actually gained a hat in the blocking surface. And then you see Crosky-Merritt, all the things we talked about this offseason, the explosiveness, the vision, the burst, and really the ability to accelerate. Once he sees the cut, his ability to accelerate off of that great decision by John Bates, I thought was really tremendous. And I'm sure there's other people that did great things on that play because you don't get touchdown. You don't get big runs like that without the receivers doing excellent stuff. I just didn't see it. But the John Bates thing, his ability, Bill Merritt's ability to kind of break that off, I thought was really incredible. And again, I'm curious to see in larger utilization packages if he can continue to do that.
Yeah, Logan's going to watch the tape, and then we'll get a lot more insight, not only on that play, but everything that they ran and how they ended up winning 21-6 and who shined maybe that we're not addressing that wasn't obvious in the box score. On the running back position, we'd be remiss if we didn't mention, pretty surprisingly, Chris Rodriguez was deactivated. Yeah. He had such a good preseason. He ran his butt off every time he got an opportunity to, and yet he was down. They were in a numbers crunch. They clearly love Bill, and he got 10 carries today. He goes for 82 yards to lead the team. He also had a 6-yard touchdown run around the edge where he had two pullers out in front and he was untouched and he kind of bounced it wide. But you'd have to give him, I would think, an A just on the surface. Then maybe we could go back and pass pro, or maybe there's subtleties they'd tell you he did something wrong somewhere. But from what I could see from the naked eye, it was a really, really good first game for a 7th-round pick.
No, absolutely. And he's got some special qualities. Like even on the touchdown, John Bates is down blocking, I think, a blitzing linebacker, and there's a little bit of penetration, and I've seen that play die. Remember, the back is in the offset gun. He's to the left, so he's got a long way to go. So any type of penetration to the front side of that thing can be devastating. Bates has given up a little penetration. Tough block, giving up a little penetration. He's able to dip his hat inside that, make the linebacker commit, help John Bates block out, and then bounce it back outside. It was incredible to watch from the end zone. But like little nuances like that, like there's a counter where he's able to set up the double team, push it back out, break a tackle, fall forward for 5. It's a muddy run, able to maximize it. And I think that vision, the muddy run ability is something that is, you saw it in college. It's great to see it here in this small sample size of 10 carries. But if he can continue to build on that, man, like, he's going to be a weapon for this group.
Are you posted up in the end zone the whole time, or do you move around?
I move around. So I like to, we're in the red zone. Usually I like to be down in the end zone so I can kind of see and kind of feel the spacing of stuff and that kind of thing. But that was a cool play to watch.
And then if they're on the sideline, you like to go eavesdrop and pretend like you're supposed to be over there.
What's going on over here?
I put my pencil down. Oh, hey, Jaden, what happened on that play? Yeah, what a performance. 21-6, the Commanders get a win. All right, rapid fire. A few guys I want to hit on here and ask you about. Don't need deep dives necessarily, but more Eckler early than everyone expected. First few drives of the game, we didn't see Merritt. It's like, oh, no, Chris Rodriguez. Krosky Merritt's going to play constantly. There's a lot of Austin Eckler. He ended up having one huge play at the end of the game to get a first down. It was right after he committed a penalty, and you could tell he's like, I'm making up for that here.
That was incredible.
It was a catch and run. He made a couple guys.
Bowling ball, stumbling, bumbling through everybody. Everyone, he's so small, but everyone forgets how powerful he is in terms of his lower body strength. He's like a 500-pound back squat. So like incredible strength, incredible dexterity. And really, like, that's what he brings, is that explosive ability.
Another running back, Jeremy McNichols, crunch time, 4 for 25.
Love the hard running.
That's physical. Like, that's where you would have had Rodriguez out there as a bruiser. And coming into the game, I would have said, I wonder if they've got to salt some clock away, like what that looks like. McNichols is fine.
And that's the one thing about McNichols you saw last year, you saw it in the preseason this year, is that dude runs like a missile. Like, I think, obviously Chris Rodriguez, a little bit bigger body, a little bit bigger base, kind of traditionally what you think of as like a 4-minute offense runner. But McNichols, man, he is aggressive to the hole. When he's running, it sounds different. Like when you're standing on the sideline, it's like these loud pops and cracks and people falling forward, and he's falling forward. And so again, people sleep on his ability to run the football because he's so good on teams. He's so good in pass pro, but he is a violent downhill fellow.
Chris Moore was elevated this weekend.
Yeah, how about that guy?
First big play of the game.
Yeah.
It's Chris Moore down the field for a big gain. He ends up with that catch, but it was a 34-yard completion. It was an incredible play by Jaden Daniels. I mean, that throw, just like, whoop.
So just on that concept, it's a keeper, like a boot, and they've got the tight end blocking down. He's at the perimeter. You run that corner kind of just to take off coverage. You never really.
I was going to say, there's no way it takes too long.
Yeah.
That can't be primary.
Yeah, no, you're trying to hit the crosser or the guy in the flat right there, and he's over there. The Giants did a great job, and the safety gets a little bit nosy to the cross, and I mean, just delivers an absolute dime.
That was ridiculous.
An absolute dime, and like I remember seeing that, just being like, wow, like. Talk about working your progression, great protection by the offensive line, John Bates, those guys. But
this is why I love Ball, though. He is not supposed to make the roster, right?
Yeah.
And then he doesn't. And then he's added to the practice squad. And then 48 hours ago, nobody thought he would play.
Right.
And then on the opening game of the season,
that's the play that gets him going.
That was the play, and it was 34 yards to Chris Moore.
Yeah, right.
It was the guy that everyone was mad at for dropping passes in the preseason, and it's like, it's almost like he's a pretty good football player, and people forget that. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, absolutely.
But I love that about this game. You just never know who it's going to be. Noah Brown, I thought, looked good. Only had 2 catches for 27, had a third that came back via penalty. But considering how much time he's missed and any questions there are right now about him just getting enough time on the grass, his size is so obvious. And like we talked about Deebo on those in-breakers, I love him running that stuff.
Yeah, and he's got a little Jeremy McNichols to him in terms of when he's got the ball in his hands. Like, it's this violent, crazy, bucking horse to kind of get you as much as you can. And Dan always touts his competitiveness. And, for someone who doesn't know him, just watching how he plays the game, like I love when I see guys like putting it all out on the line every single time. But talk about another guy, him, Noah, Deebo, guys that you just need to make sure you keep them healthy because they are going to pour their hearts out for this team.
Zach Ertz, big touchdown. We saw that route 15 times.
And then, so how about that guy breaks his leg? McFadden, bummer for him. Feel really bad, obviously. But then the next play call, the backup linebacker one-on-one with Zach Ertz, you're like, ooh.
Unforgiving league.
Tough deal there.
Yeah. You don't think that was a coincidence?
No, I don't think so.
I don't either. What is that concept of a route, or what do they call it? Basically, he just bends out and whips in.
So it's either like a called, like kind of what you'd like on if you're playing Madden, like that Texas route where you're running an angle, come back in, or it's a choice. And so guys that really are good choice runners, they have all sorts of nuance to that stem. You see Zach, he pushes up, kind of turns his shoulders out. That guy crosses over. Zach just puts his foot in the ground and crosses his face for the easiest touchdown.
The easiest touchdown
and
that's ever been scored.
Yeah. So I think like it's either a called angle or you can go in and out. And really good route runners like Zach. even though he has a drop in this game, 2 drops, but like his ability to just put DBs and linebackers in absolute conflict is going to be awesome to watch this entire year.
All right, final thoughts. Take command from Northwest Stadium. Short week, quick turnaround to the Packers on Thursday night. Obviously, you got some film to crunch, and we'll turn things around so that on Tuesday everybody can get your detailed film dive. But what do you think?
Man, I'm excited. I think I think I talked to Dan briefly in the locker room, and he just was like, there's a lot of penalties, a lot of things we can improve on. But in terms of Commanders football that he's touted since he's got here, competitive, smart, tough, I feel that in a way, specifically from the defense, that I don't really think I felt at any point last year. And so that to me is extremely encouraging. Obviously, like we talked about the extremely bright spots for the offense. I'm hoping they build on those going into next week, but it's really the defense is the story of the day.
Bro, if this defense is good, like legit good,
I mean, even if
they're not going to be a fun team to have to deal with.
But even if they're like the 14th best defense in the league, like think about where they were last year and where they are now. Like that's going to be such a statistical improvement.
I think that's very realistic, by the way.
Absolutely.
But I'm saying, like, you watch this today, and they're going to play teams that have more than Malik Neighbors in terms of scary weapons. In fact, Green Bay is playing Detroit right now.
Yeah. I
watched their first drive, basically waiting to get into the locker room.
And
Matt LaFleur was in his bag. Like they're going to have – it's going to be a different challenge.
Yeah.
But my point is, if they're good on defense, Omar's coming. Like, you're not going to want to have to play this football team. But too many penalties.
Feels so different. Feels so different than last year already. Yeah.
I just the defensive front, man. I see the vision. I see what they like, and there are a lot of things that didn't happen too, where there's still more coming. Like you're gonna get Von Miller production. You're gonna commit 11 penalties.
How about Bobby Wagner, the roughing the passer that is an interception by Quant? Like, like those types of plays, the fumble that wasn't a fumble. Like
third downs, you allow conversions on penalties where instead they'd be punting. Like maybe you allow 3 points in this game.
Right. And I think like that's just, again, it's week 1, and to get out of here with a win in week 1 when there's so much unknown. I felt like the defensive coordinator for the Giants played so much more man than I was expecting. So great job kind of navigating the ebbs and flows. But the defense, man, came down. And like you're saying, if they can do this to week in and week out, which is the hard thing about the league, is you have to be consistent. But if they can do this week in and week out, man, like this is going to be a tough football team to play.
Did you stick with just the bowl of scrambled eggs and bacon that I saw you eating, or did you add it?
It was turkey sausage, bro. What do you think this is, bro?
Oh God, you know what? I can't believe I said that.
Yeah, you should feel that.
Yeah, that's awful.
No, but I had what I have this morning. I had
Did you bring like a bar?
I had ground beef this morning with a little bit of chickpeas and it's like quinoa.
I found you with my binoculars down there. Was that lettuce you were pulling out of your pocket and nibbling
I had a protein shake and a protein
like
bar.
A box turtle?
Yeah. So
there's some hot dogs over there if you want one of those.
I don't know about that.
Get a little bun, maybe some ketchup and mustard.
Dude.
Logan Paulsen, Grant Paulsen, Commanders are 1-0. Take command. We will be back with Logan's film breakdown. We'll deep dive into this game later this week. And then remember to come back a midweek for our preview of the Green Bay Packers Thursday night football matchup. Washington with the chance to get to 2-0 through just a handful of days and then have a nice little mini bye going into week 3. Thanks for hanging with us from Northwest Stadium.